Welcome, lovers of classical music. Imagine a time machine that transports you through sound. What if you could witness the birth of the symphony or hear Mozart composing his masterpieces live? Today, I bring you an epic journey through the evolution of classical music, exploring its historical periods and the giants who shaped it with passion and genius. In this video, we'll uncover each stage of this eternal art form, from its ancient echoes in medieval churches to the modern innovations resonating in September 2025. Get ready for a story full of emotion, discovery, conflict, and unforgettable harmonies. If you stay until the end, I'll share a selection of the best books for musicians that will help you dive even deeper into this fascinating world. Subscribe if you enjoy the video and join me on this time traveler's guide through classical music. Let's embark on the musical ship of time. What would happen if we could leap through the centuries to witness the birth of classical music? This isn't just a collection of dusty notes on old sheets of paper. It's a living, breathing entity, shaped by society, religion, and the brilliant minds of each era. We begin our journey at the dawn of Western musical history, where everything started with simple melodies that evolved into complex structures. The promise is clear. We'll reveal surprising origins and unexpected transformations that have shaped the music we know today. Ancient echoes and early innovations mark the start of our path. Medieval music, spanning from the 6th to the 15th century, forms the foundation of all Western classical tradition. At that time, Europe was deep in the Middle Ages with fragmented kingdoms, the dominant influence of the Catholic Church, and a society divided between nobles, clergy, and peasants. Music wasn't mere entertainment. It was an integral part of daily life, especially in religious contexts. It all begins with Gregorian chant, a monophonic form, meaning a single melodic line without accompaniment. These chants were used in church liturgies, named after Pope Gregory I, though they actually developed centuries later, around the 9th century, under Emperor Charlemagne. He wanted to unify religious practices across his vast Frankish empire by merging Roman and Gallican traditions. Picture monks in dark monasteries, intoning these pure, ethereal melodies designed to lift the spirit toward the divine. There were no complex harmonies, only a collective voice flowing like a calm river, with flexible rhythms following the natural cadence of Latin prayers. This marks the beginning, but soon comes the need to standardize these chants. Primitive notations appear, such as neumes, which indicated melodic direction without specifying exact pitches. Guido d'Arezzo, an Italian monk of the 11th century, revolutionized everything by inventing the staff, the system of lines we still use today to write music. He also created psalmization, naming notes with the syllables ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, based on a hymn to St. John the Baptist. Suddenly, music became more accessible. It could be taught and preserved accurately. In the secular realm, troubadours and trouvères entered the scene. These poet-musicians, active in southern and northern France respectively, sang about courtly love, chivalry, and adventure. They used vernacular languages like Occitan or Old French instead of Church Latin. A troubadour such as Bernard de Ventadorn composed passionate songs about unrequited love, accompanied by instruments like the vihuela or the lute. This added a human, emotional touch. Music was no longer only for God, but for the earthly heart. As we move forward, polyphony emerges as a key innovation. At first, everything was monophonic, but by the 9th century, organum appears, where a second voice is added parallel to the main one, often at intervals of a fourth or fifth. This creates a richer texture, as if the voices intertwined in a subtle dance. At the Notre Dame School in Paris, composers like Léonin and Periton took this to the next level. Léonin, in the 12th century, wrote florid organum, with elaborate melodies above long-held notes of the main chant. Periton, his successor, introduced up to 4 independent voices, creating works like Viderunt Omnes, a quadruple organum that resounded through the Cathedral of Notre Dame with astonishing complexity. These pieces didn't just adorn liturgy, they challenged the acoustics of Gothic cathedrals, where echoes amplified their harmonies. But the journey continues into the High Middle Ages, around the 13th century. Here, the motet becomes popular, initially sacred with Latin texts, but later including secular elements and even multiple languages in different voices. Philippe de Vitry, in the 14th century, wrote the treatise Ars Nova, introducing more precise rhythmic notation that allowed complex, syncopated rhythms. Guillaume de Machaut, a French cleric and poet, was a leading figure. He composed the first complete Mass as a unified work, the Messe de Notre Dame, linking its polyphonic sections like the Kyrie and Gloria into a cohesive whole. His secular chansons, such as Rose, Liz, Printemps, Verger, expressed personal emotions with poetic delicacy. In the realm of women, Hildegard von Bingen, a 12th century German abbess, stands out for her mystical visions turned into monophonic chants, such as Ordo Virtutum, one of the earliest surviving musical dramas. Medieval music didn't just lay the foundations, it influenced everything that came after. Polyphony opened the door to richer harmonies, and notation allowed composition across distances. Yet it faced conflict. The Church sometimes saw polyphony as too distracting, preferring the purity of plain chant. Even centuries later, the Council of Trent would debate this. In the secular world, Goliards, wandering students, sang irreverent Latin songs like those in the Carmina Burana, criticizing clerical corruption and celebrating wine and love. Instruments such as the recorder, harp, and psaltery added color, though instrumental music was less documented, often improvised for dances like the Estampi. We now transition to the Renaissance, from the 15th to the 16th century, when music blossomed with humanism and the rediscovery of Greco-Roman antiquity. Gutenberg's printing press, invented in 1439, revolutionized distribution. Now scores could be mass-produced, democratizing access. Music was unified under a common language dominated by the Franco-Flemish school. Guillaume Dufay, a Burgundian composer, merged medieval traditions with new ideas using Foxborden, a technique of parallel harmonies. His masses, such as the one based on Say La Face I Pale, incorporated cantus firmus, a fixed melody in one voice around which others intertwined. Then came Josquin de Prez, the master of the mid-Renaissance, who elevated polyphony to new heights. His motets like Ave Maria, Virgo Serena, used pervasive imitation, melodic motives repeated across all voices, creating balance and expressiveness. He influenced all of Europe. Martin Luther praised him as the master of the notes. In sacred music, masses and motets dominated, but the secular realm gained ground with the French chanson and the Italian madrigal. Madrigals, for 3 to 6 voices, expressed poetic texts with chromaticism and word painting, painting words like rise with ascending notes. Composers such as Luca Marenzio and Carlo Gesualdo pushed boundaries with daring dissonances, reflecting the Mannerist style. Giovanni Pierluigi de Palestrina, in 16th century Rome, responded to the Counter-Reformation with clear, devout music. His Pope Marcellus Mass preserved church polyphony by keeping texts intelligible and maintaining smooth counterpoint. In England, Thomas Tallis and William Byrd adapted these styles to Anglicanism, composing hymns and services. Instrumental music flourished. Consorts of viols or flutes played dances like the pavane and galliard. Instruments evolved, the lute became popular for solo music, and the harpsichord emerged as a precursor to the piano. This era transitioned into the Baroque by breaking away from church modes toward functional tonality, with harmonic progressions resolving tension. The impact endured. Renaissance polyphony inspired Bach, and madrigals evolved into opera. Our time-traveling journey reveals how these early innovations, from simple chants to rich textures, laid the roots of classical music, connecting spiritual pasts with universal human expression. Now, let's advance to Baroque grandeur and classical clarity. The Baroque era, from 1600 to 1750, brought drama and contrast. Born in Italy, it spread across Europe during the Age of Absolutism, with monarchs like Louis XIV funding opulent courts. Music became expressive using basso continuo, a bass line with figures indicating harmonies, for improvised accompaniment. Claudio Monteverdi pioneered opera with L'Orfeo in 1607, combining recitatives and arias to tell myths through emotion. Opera became a spectacle, with elaborate scenery and virtuosic voices. Then came Antonio Vivaldi, the Red Priest of Venice, who wrote hundreds of concertos, such as the Four Seasons, where the solo violin converses with the orchestra, painting natural scenes through trills and pizzicatos. George Friedrich Handel, a German settled in England, created oratorios like the Messiah, with grand choruses such as the Hallelujah that thrilled audiences. His operas, like Julius Caesar, featured castrati singers performing Da Capo arias, repeating sections with ornate embellishments. Johann Sebastian Bach, the giant of the late Baroque, synthesized everything through masterful counterpoint. His fugues, in the well-tempered clavier, explored all major and minor keys, demonstrating equal temperament. Cantatas such as BWV 140, Watchet Auf, combined Lutheran chorales with emotional arias. He worked in churches and courts but faced struggles. In Leipzig, he argued with authorities over resources. His dance suites, like those for solo cello, stylized movements such as the Allemande and Sarabande for deep listening. Baroque music emphasized effects, emotions conveyed through musical rhetoric. Instruments like the violin and oboe gained prominence, and the orchestra became standardized. But around 1730, the Galant style emerged, simplifying textures into homophony. This leads us to the classical period, from 1750 to 1820, focused on balance and elegance. Vienna became the center, home to the first Viennese school, Joseph Haydn, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and Ludwig van Beethoven. Haydn, the father of the symphony, composed 104 symphonies, such as The Surprise with its sudden forte to awaken audiences. He developed sonata form, exposition, development, and recapitulation, reconciling themes through harmony. Mozart, a prodigy since childhood, wrote operas like The Marriage of Figaro, satirizing society with intricate ensembles. His Symphony No. 41, Jupiter, culminated in grand fugues, and his piano concertos showcased virtuosic brilliance. Yet he faced hardship, losing patronage and dying young in poverty. Beethoven bridged into Romanticism with symphonies like the Third, Eroica, expanding form and dynamics. He introduced choirs into the Ninth Symphony with Ode to Joy, symbolizing human unity. His progressive deafness added personal conflict, but he innovated boldly with daring harmonic cycles. The classical era saw a shift from patronage to public concerts, democratizing music. Orchestras grew, and the fortepiano allowed dynamic nuance. String quartets became intimate, as in Haydn's works. But before moving on, let's pause. If you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories of geniuses like Mozart and Beethoven. And if you'd like to dive deeper into music, check out the classical music books linked in the description. They're the best for musicians and enthusiasts, and buying through them costs you nothing extra but helps us keep creating content. Take a look, and let's continue our journey. Passion and romance now await. The Romantic era, from 1830 to 1900, prioritized emotion and individualism, shaped by the Industrial Revolution and nationalism. Beethoven paved the way with late works like the Op. 131 String Quartet, breaking classical forms. Frédéric Chopin, a Polish exile in Paris, composed for piano. Nocturnes like Op. 9 No. 2 evoke melancholy, while mazurkas incorporate Polish folk rhythms. Franz Liszt, the Hungarian virtuoso, invented the symphonic poem with less preludes, programmatic music inspired by literature. His tours sparked Listomania, but later he dedicated himself to teaching. Richard Wagner revolutionized opera with The Ring of the Nibelung, using leitmotifs, recurring themes, and chromatic harmonies that blurred tonality. Johannes Brahms, more conservative, wrote symphonies like the Fourth, with a final Passacaglia honoring tradition. Nationalism flourished. Bedřich Smetana's Ma Vlast depicted Czech rivers, while Edvard Grieg drew on Norwegian myths in Peer Gynt. Program music, like Hector Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, used an idée fixe to represent obsessive love. Orchestras expanded, with dynamics ranging from PPP to FFF. Virtuosos like Niccolò Paganini dazzled with violin caprices. Critics accused Romanticism of excessive emotion, but composers kept pushing boundaries. We move into the 20th century and modern soundscapes. From 1901 to 2000, no single style dominated, experimentation ruled. Impressionism arrived with Claude Debussy's Prelude à l'après-midi d'un faun, using whole-tone scales and floating harmonies to evoke atmosphere. Maurice Ravel added orchestral color in Bolero, repeating themes in a growing crescendo. Arnold Schoenberg's atonality shattered tonal tradition in 5 pieces for orchestra, leading to 12-tone technique, series of 12 pitches without a tonal center. His students Alban Berg and Anton Webern refined this. Berg's Wozik mixed atonality with social drama. Igor Stravinsky shocked audiences with The Rite of Spring, whose primitive rhythms caused riots in 1913. Later, his Pulcinella marked a neoclassical turn, reviving older forms. Minimalism emerged with Philip Glass's Einstein on the Beach, built on hypnotic repetition, and Steve Reich's music for 18 musicians, exploring rhythmic phases. Serialism extended 12-tone principles to rhythm and dynamics under Pierre Boulez. John Cage introduced chants in 4 feet 33 inches, where silence itself became music. Electronic pioneers like Edgar Varese, Poème électronique, and Karlheinz Stockhausen used synthesizers. Global influences expanded. Jazz in Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, folk in Bela Bartok's Concerto for Orchestra. Nationalism persisted. Dmitri Shostakovich's symphonies reflected Soviet oppression, while Benjamin Britten's War Requiem condemned war. Looking ahead to the future, in September 2025, classical music thrives with diversity. Trends include VR for immersive concerts, AI composing pieces, Gen Z conductors bringing fresh perspectives, affordable tickets, and fusions with pop and electronic styles. Composers like John Adams premiere works such as After the Fall and Alice Chance with Euvenia. Gen Z and millennials reinvent it through streaming and viral media, blending genres while exploring experimental sounds. Classical music now incorporates global influences, technology, and contemporary themes like climate change. This journey teaches us that classical music constantly evolves, adapting to times and cultures. From medieval chants to modern experiments, it combines tradition with innovation, touching the human soul. If you enjoyed this journey through classical music, subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to keep sharing these stories. And as promised, here's my final recommendation. The best books for musicians are linked in the description. From guides on historical periods to composer biographies, these books are treasures. Purchasing through our links costs you nothing extra, but helps us keep creating content like this. Thank you for joining me, and see you in the next video.